If you're struggling with a sound that's thin, airy, tight, maybe it's inflexible and just inconsistent despite years of effort and tons of practicing, it's not because you haven't practiced enough, it's not because you're not trying hard enough, and it's certainly not because you're just not good enough. It's tension. Hidden tension that's hiding throughout your body and often even in your mind. In this video, I'm going to show you how to release all that hidden tension to create a warmer and more resonant sound that's flexible and consistent. Step one is simply to discover where this tension is coming from. Often it's coming from different parts of your body, maybe more than one place at the same time, and sometimes they're even all interconnected and related. So we want to kind of get to the bottom of where that tension is really coming from. Before you can play any note on the flute, you have to take a breath. And so a lot of tension starts already from the breath and then just continues in while you're playing. The first way to kind of discover if there's tension in your breath is to analyze your posture. Often the way we're standing or sitting when we're playing the flute might be contributing to tension because we're having to use muscles that we need to take a proper breath just to hold ourselves in the strange position that we're in. Here's one example. So I'm personally someone who arches their back naturally when they're standing, which isn't super helpful when you're playing the flute. So when I'm standing, I tend to kind of have this arch in the back, which creates sort of tension in my lower back, and then makes me use all these muscles just to hold the position rather than being able to access them for the breath and for supporting the flute sound. So if I tuck this underneath to create a really neutral spine, it releases the tension down here, and then I'm able to use these muscles with tension that I'm wanting to use them with to play the flute and to breathe properly. So it's the difference between this kind of breath or if I arch underneath. There's already an improvement in the sound because I'm able to take a deeper breath and then access the muscles that I need to support the sound properly. Other posture mistakes are the opposite. So maybe you're someone who kind of sits with their hips like this when they're playing. This can also create tension in the front, make it hard to take a proper breath. So it's just a more shallow breath and a more shallow sound. Maybe you're someone who kind of plays with one hip out. And so then this side is kind of stretched out and this side's a bit crunched. It's really hard to take a full and proper breath that doesn't have any tension in it when you're standing like that. Even when you're sitting, if you're kind of collapsed like this, taking a breath is again going to be too tense and shallow because I can only kind of fill up the top and I'm sort of collapsed. Whereas if I'm sitting up, I have a lot more space to fill my lungs with air. Now, when you're taking the breath, you want to make sure that you breathe in a way that's expanding your lungs. Up and out and everywhere out, okay? If you breathe in a way that's really tense up here, so if you raise your shoulders, then it's a more shallow breath. If you breathe in a way that is kind of collapsed, you only get air right in the top. So you want to, again, have that neutral spine and then with no tension anywhere in here, okay? Easier said than done when you're in the middle of a fast passage and taking a catch breath or doing anything that challenges the breathing. But what you want to start with the basics of is that super open, relaxed breath all throughout your chest and core, okay? Another thing that gets people tripped up is releasing these muscles when you take a breath as well. So if you're in the middle of a piece and you're breathing in between phrases or maybe even in the middle of the phrase, you do have to release these muscles to some degree in order to allow the breath to come in. If they're packed full of tension and like locked in place, you're not going to be able to get that full lung capacity full of air because you're just kind of squeezing your lungs in place and they won't be able to expand. I'll give you an example. I almost didn't make it because I did not release, when I took that breath in the middle, I did not release these muscles at all. I try to just breathe over top of them. So when you're taking a breath, you got to release, fill up, and kind of re-engage all in a split second. Okay? Here's how to do it properly. So each time I am releasing just enough to let the air in and then re-engaging. If you have tons of time, you can even release fully, take in that really luxurious breath and then engage. Another place it's really common to have tension is inside your throat. It could be stemming from tension in your neck and shoulders, again, from your posture or from just tension you're holding in your body in that way. Maybe you're playing something really fast and difficult and it makes you seize up. That can end up with tension in your throat. Maybe we're not releasing properly here when we take a breath, and so everything's already tight and your throat follows suit, and you get that kind of loud, airy kind of sounding breath. Or maybe you've just developed the habit of sort of closing your throat when you're playing or engaging your throat muscles in a way that's not really helping you. So to release that, you can try a few different things. If you put your hand in a kind of a circle and then make your mouth big enough that it goes around the circle, it looks a little bit awkward, but it'll help you see how open your throat can be. Okay, lots of really relaxed open throat. It's the same if you yawn or anything like that. The other way to feel your throat muscles relax is to sing a really low note. So if I sing a note, ah, and open my mouth and let everything drop, then I can get those lower tones. My vocal cords go down, my throat relaxes, everything's open. Okay? If you're still struggling to do it when you can make that open, relaxed throat, but you pick up your flute and it closes up tight again, another thing you can do is try singing and playing at the same time. You're only able to actually vocalize that sound if your throat's open enough. And so when you go back to playing it normally, your throat will be more relaxed and you can recreate the openness. Lastly, throat tension can often come from a lack of air support. So we're trying to compensate with everything here for what's not working down here. So a quick note about how to support properly. After you take your nice open breath, when you're blowing out, you want the muscles to go in and often up. Okay, if you're playing in the low register, maybe it's more just in. If you're playing in the high register and you want the air to move even faster, it can be up. So if I do like a shh sound, instead of playing the flute, it looks like this. And everything is going in. Okay, so that's how to support properly, and if the more you support properly, the more you can relax everything up here. That brings us to embouchure. So again, embouchure tension often is from overcompensating. Maybe we hear a little bit of air in the sound that we don't like, so we squeeze the embouchure to get rid of it. Maybe just to make a sound at all, especially in the high register, we're struggling to get the air to move fast enough, and so we squeeze here again and overwork these muscles until they're just sore and tired. Okay, these muscles, while we'll develop them and they might get a little tired, they shouldn't really get sore and they shouldn't be overused. So to correct for that, again, you want that proper air support and air speed, and that's what's going to allow you to relax the embouchure. Now, tricks for this: if you're not able to get the feeling of a relaxed embouchure, it's just so tight you don't know how to let it go. One trick that I give people is that start playing a note in whatever registers that's bothering you with no embouchure at all, and it's going to just sound awful and airy and brutal, but then you're going to slowly form an embouchure until a sound comes out, and the second the sound comes out, you stop forming the embouchure. That's the amount of tension that you actually need to create a sound. No more than that. Okay, so it looks like this. Okay, that's the amount of tension I need for that note to sound open and clear. If I were to keep going, it's going to get turned into that thin, airy, and tense kind of sound. So I'll do it again, and I'll go too far this time. So if that sounds like something that you hear, any portion of that in your playing, then you might be having too much tension within your embouchure, and you might want to look at whether you're supporting properly. Go all the way back to the beginning, figure out your posture. If you're breathing correctly, all of that's going to correlate to whether your embouchure is too tense. If you really struggle with tension and you're just not sure where it's coming from, we want to invite you to join our free school community. I'll drop a link in the description below. We'll connect with you personally and really help you solve this really common problem. So another super common place for tension is your fingers, hands, goes all the way up into your arms, shoulders, neck, all of that. Okay, we might think that this only affects our technique and our fast fingers, but you might be surprised that this can affect your tone as well. If you're constantly in a state of stress with your fingers and your hands, you might inadvertently be pressing the flute against your face with a lot more pressure than is necessary. This itself can kill the flexibility of your sound because it's really hard to change your embouchure and move it around in the way you need to be flexible to make different sound colors, different dynamics, all the things you need to do with your embouchure. If your flute is so plastered against your face that you can't move it, you're not going to have any of that flexibility. So sometimes you might find you're compensating by rolling in, because that kind of corrects it close to our ear, but it really just kills the projection in the long term. Okay, and then you might be finding like the high register to be a struggle because you just have all this like inflexibility with the tension against your face. Sometimes a trick that I try to use is to almost like bring your lips, you're not even touching the flute and you're just bringing your lips towards it. Same thing with the no embouchure to embouchure. This is like no touch to just touching enough to make the sound. Looks a little bit like this. So instead of, you want, without changing anything else, the quality of the sound is different. And so it's just more flexibility in the sound and more control over what you're doing. It may feel like less control initially because you're used to that pressure, but in the end, you're going to have a much more control. And then lastly, with the finger tension, again, if your hands are really squeezing to get those notes to come out or have extra tension in them, then it's going to go up into your forearms. You might even get injured. It's going to go up into your shoulders. And then this is where some of that throat tension can often come from. So you might find if you fix the tension in your fingers that actually your sound improves because you'll lose some of that tension in the throat. I did create a step-by-step plan for fixing finger tension. I'm not going to go through it here. I have a video, I'll link that in the comments as well that you can watch. It's a 4-step process to fix your finger tension. So all of that was to explain step 1, which is to just identify where that tension is, and I gave you a few tips for releasing the tension in the various areas. Step 2 is creating a practice routine that's going to help you create these new habits. Once you've isolated the root cause of the tension, the best way forward is to spend about 2 to 5 minutes in your warm-up routine every day that you practice on a targeted exercise that will help you develop the habit of releasing tension in that area. If it's your fingers, there are tons of technical exercises you can use to really isolate and only be thinking about fixing that tension in your fingers. If it's your posture, you might want to try some long tones or some simple melodies that you really love that don't distract you from having to fix your pelvis one way or another, maybe keep yourself straight, So if you're spending that 2 to 5 minutes hyper-focused on fixing the tension problem when you're not distracted by all the other things you need to learn, then it's going to jumpstart your progress. So when you're practicing other stuff and maybe those habits creep in, you're going to identify it sooner because you spent that really hyper-focused time addressing it, and then you'll be able to address it in those moments as well. You can also check in with yourself by doing a video recording, making sure that your posture is correct, making sure there's not something weird going on with your breathing. Maybe you'll hear some sound in the breath. Maybe you'll see that your embouchure is super tight or that you're compensating. Okay, so recording yourself, your video recorder is your best friend in this process to keep you accountable for keeping these habits moving forward. You can always ask a trusted friend, peer, teacher to give you some feedback. Often someone from the outside might be able to see tension that you're not able to feel within your body as well. The final piece of the puzzle for all of this that we haven't talked about yet is mindset. So if there's a ton of tension in the way you're thinking about the flute, the way you're thinking about the music that you're playing, the way you're thinking about the outcome of all this work you're doing and whether it's feasible or not. If you have a lot of negative thoughts, fear-based thoughts, anxiety, that's all going to translate into physical tension in your body. So sometimes you might need, before you do any of this physical work, to check your thoughts. Are you telling yourself that you're a terrible flute player, that you suck at the flute? Are you telling yourself that you have to win this competition or your entire life is over and you're never going to make it as a flutist? Are you telling yourself that what you're trying to do is impossible? Only other people can play the flute that well. So instead of all those super negative thoughts, you can think, this competition or audition or performance or whatever it is just a stepping stone. It's a learning tool. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do my best, and whatever goes wrong, I'm going to learn from it, and moving forward, I can be even better because of this experience. Even simple thoughts like, oh, this hard part's coming, or even, you may not even think that directly, but you just know that it's coming and you feel all that tension creeping in. Oh, the big solo's coming, I'm terrified. You know, what can you tell yourself that actually helps you release tension instead of create more tension? Like, I've got this. I've prepared for this. If affirmations don't work for you, maybe just taking some deep breaths or planning in how you're going to physically relax your body when you know that you're tensing up because something difficult is coming up. How can you counteract that physical reaction to your fear of making a mistake, basically? Okay, and then if you're berating yourself constantly for making mistakes in your practice, all you're doing is adding that tension into your practice routine. So when you go to perform or play under pressure of any sort, even in a lesson or audition or anything like that, all that negativity and tension is going to be there for you because you've practiced it over and over, just like you've practiced the notes. So when you're playing something difficult, I always say go slow, take your time, try and chill out about it a little bit and create that relaxation into how you practice it. It's really going to benefit you. So when you're nervous, when the pressure's on, you've practiced it so much that that relaxation is going to be there for you. Even if you're a little heightened, a little more tense than usual, it's not going to completely fall apart the way it would if you practiced all that tension in, and then there's even more tension from being stressed out or nervous or that kind of thing. So if you found this video helpful and you think you might want to work with us in a more serious way, then join us in our premium school community. I will also add a link for this in the description below.